I think we have to really stop and think about things. And we have to stop and think about who we choose for government.
From her iconic rise in Hollywood to a life shaped by unimaginable challenges, Sharon Stone has never been one to shy away from the spotlight. At 67, she isn't just defying time, she's rewriting the narrative. Once the world's sex symbol and a name synonymous with seduction, Sharon's transformation is nothing short of astonishing. But behind the glamorous red carpet moments lies a story of pain, betrayal, and an unbelievable fight for survival. Though she captivated audiences with her unforgettable roles, Sharon's journey was anything but easy. What happened next would shake everything that we didn't know about this legendary star. Brace yourself, because Sharon's journey is far from finished, and her remarkable comeback will make you rethink everything. From small-town genius to Hollywood outsider, Sharon grew up in a modest household where her father, Joseph Stone, worked as a factory laborer, and her mother, Dorothy, managed both accounting and homemaking duties. Despite their financial struggles, the biggest challenge in Sharon's early life wasn't poverty, but isolation. From an incredibly young age, she displayed an extraordinary intellect. Before turning one, she could already walk and talk, and by the time her IQ was tested, she scored 154, placing her in the genius category. However, this gift quickly turned into a curse. Instead of admiration, her intelligence made her an outcast among her peers, who mocked her as a bookworm and a weirdo. While she felt alienated at school, home was an even darker place. Sharon endured years of abuse at the hands of her grandfather, a horrific secret she buried deep in her memory for survival. To make matters worse, she was threatened to stay silent or face deadly consequences. The trauma haunted her childhood, and only through years of therapy did the memories resurface. In her memoir, The Beauty of Living Twice, she revealed that her grandmother had forced her and her sister to stand over their abuser's dead body, offering no explanation or comfort. As if that pain wasn't enough, her father, Joseph, was strict and often resorted to physical punishment. But at 14 years old, Sharon finally stood up to him, boldly questioning, "Do you need to hit me again to feel like a man?" The confrontation shattered his authority, and from that moment on, he never laid a hand on her or her siblings again. Sharon also found herself hitting rock bottom when she had a horse riding accident at 14. The horse took off with Sharon and threw her violently off the saddle onto a clothesline, crashing heavily onto the ground. This impact caused serious injury to her neck, and the ensuing chronic pain lasted for many years. Her resolution to not allow any difficulty to defeat her was remarkable. Sharon graduated from high school at the age of 15 with supreme intellect. Afterward, she earned a scholarship to Edinburgh University to study creative writing and fine arts. Yet, even there, she felt stifled, understanding somehow that academia was not the future she truly desired. Realizing she had to get out of Meadville to pursue something bigger, it was an unexpected beauty pageant that opened the door for her first breakthrough. Never really picturing herself in the pageant world, she found that family and friends urged her to enter a local competition, went ahead, and won. The pageant opened the door to modeling in New York City, with Ford Modeling Agency and magazines. But to her, standing before the lens and not saying anything felt empty. Sharon Stone did not just want to model, she wanted more. It seemed, however, that Hollywood was not ready, and a road strewn with rejections, doubts, and struggles awaited her to prove that she was more than just a pretty face. However, what came next would forever change the course of her career. Despite many rejections, A single role in a controversial film propelled her from Hollywood outsider to global sensation. A journey of rejections. Sharon Stone's journey into Hollywood was far from easy. After finding success as a model in New York, she decided to pursue her true passion, acting. However, Hollywood wasn't immediately welcoming. Despite her striking looks, she struggled to land roles, with many casting directors telling her she wasn't sexy enough and didn't have the sultry allure that was typically required for leading ladies at the time. Directors dismissed her for her sharp features, claiming that she didn't conform to the conventional beauty standards of the era. This relentless rejection left Sharon feeling like an outsider, but it also ignited a fierce determination to prove herself in an industry that seemed to have no place for her. Her first role in 1980's Stardust Memories was a small, insignificant part with no lines. A fleeting appearance in a film by the legendary Woody Allen. While the role didn't make any lasting impact, for Sharon, it was a significant milestone. She had finally made her way into the industry she longed to be part of. But even with that first step, the road ahead was far from paved. She continued to struggle, taking minor roles in films such as Deadly Blessing, 1981, and Irreconcilable Differences, 1984. Despite sharing the screen with more prominent stars, she remained largely unrecognized, stuck in the shadows of Hollywood's glitzy exterior. From the early days, Sharon was very adamant that she would take steps forward. She very much felt stagnant in her career. Hollywood probably identified her only as a model-turned-actress. In many cases, she was typecast as just a pretty face with little talent or depth to offer. But this was not going to deter Sharon. Instead of giving up, Sharon decided to make her own moves, seeking to challenge herself with roles that asked more than just using her beautiful physical attributes. All this while, she believed that she had much more to offer than just the stereotypical roles Hollywood wanted to place her into. The rise to stardom. Sharon Stone's breakthrough came with the 1992 film Basic Instinct, a role that would forever change her life and career. Before this film, Sharon had been stuck in smaller, forgettable roles, often dismissed as just another pretty face. But Basic Instinct catapulted her into global stardom in a way she never anticipated. She was cast as Catherine Trammell, a mysterious and seductive woman with a sharp mind and an even sharper edge. This complex character required much more than beauty. Sharon was tasked with portraying a woman who was both manipulative and charismatic, showing a depth that Hollywood hadn't yet seen from her. However, it was one specific scene in the film that shocked the world and made Sharon Stone a household name, the infamous leg-crossing moment. In an interrogation room, her character casually crosses her legs, revealing more than what was initially intended. The brief moment, lasting only a few seconds, became one of the most replayed and discussed scenes in cinematic history. What made the moment even more controversial was that Sharon Stone later claimed she had been deceived by director Paul Verhoeven. She was told that removing her underwear was necessary for lighting purposes and that only a hint of light reflection would be visible. But when the film was released, she was horrified to discover that the shot revealed far more than she had ever agreed to. The scene's subsequent action was a bombshell detonating. Sharon Stone suddenly sprung a surprise that it might be declared as the new overnight sex symbol. However, this new fame did not at all turn out to be a reward for her acting endeavor. For a stereotype known as the leg-crossing beautiful woman, this was quite the feat for which she found herself, having applied it in an unplanned date of directors and producers who would see her through its multifaceted art study. The truth of the matter was, after Basic Instinct, She felt almost imprisoned because she later discovered that Hollywood was infinitely more concerned with her image than with any of her talents. The truth, of course, is Sharon Stone attained fame and recognition, but ironically, even with its massive turbans, she would find herself at odds with the very industry that elevated her to those heights. The leg-crossing scene was literally a double-edged sword. She became a worldwide sensation, but afterward cast a very long shadow in her career. All people understood was that she was a symbol of sex appeal extended from herself, making the house of that damned double-edged sword. Hence, Sharon desperately needed to prove that she was not only a pretty face, but could act. All she demanded was that she be considered for her acting ability and not her alluring looks. But Hollywood wasn't going to take notice of more than Catherine Trammell. Fame came with it. Sharon realized such enormous bitterness in her heart because she knew that what was going to be paid for her newfound identity would haunt her for many years. But as Sharon navigated the dizzying highs of fame, she soon discovered that Hollywood's attention came with a cost, one that would ignite a battle she never expected to fight. Love, betrayal, and personal struggles. Sharon Stone's personal life was marked by a series of complex and painful relationships, many of which ended in betrayal and heartache. In 1984, she married Michael Greenberg, a television producer she met while working on the film Vegas Strip War. At first, their relationship seemed like the perfect union between two ambitious people in Hollywood. However, as Sharon's career began to soar, the strain of balancing her newfound fame with married life became too much. Sharon's relentless drive for success seemed to take priority, and rumors swirled that she had prioritized her career over her marriage, ultimately leading to their separation in 1987. Though their divorce wasn't finalized until 3 years later, the marriage had already unraveled. Sharon's focus was on building her career, while Michael appeared to want a quieter life. Following her divorce, Sharon entered another high-profile relationship with country music star Dwight Yoakam. Their romance was a media sensation, with the glamorous Hollywood actress and the rugged musician drawing significant attention. However, what seemed like a fairy tale relationship quickly turned into a nightmare. Sharon became increasingly jealous and controlling, and sources claimed that Dwight felt suffocated by her intense emotions. Neither Sharon nor Dwight openly discussed the reasons for their breakup, but Sharon later referred to the relationship as the biggest mistake of my life, expressing deep regret over it. In a 1995 interview, Sharon even compared kissing Dwight to eating a dirt sandwich, a brutal and candid remark that made it clear how deeply she regretted the relationship. Soon thereafter, Sharon found herself embroiled in a messy love affair when she became engaged to film producer William J. McDonald in 1993. That controversy almost bordered on their relationship, since at the time William was still married to Naomi Baca, with whom he had been married for just 5 months before leaving her to be with Sharon. This became a media circus, with accusations from Naomi on Sharon as a homewrecker and public condemnation of the engagement. Sharon's spokesperson tried denying the allegations, stating that Sharon only got involved with McDonald after his filings for divorce, leaving the matter messy. The engagement, however, would not translate into anything good for long. By 1994, they had parted ways. As a final cold gesture, Sharon returned the engagement ring via FedEx. Sharon's romantic struggles did not end there. In 1998, after marrying Phil Bronstein, all hopes brightened since they quickly became one of Hollywood's favorite couples. However, behind such a rosy life was Sharon's personal struggle into the throes of infertility as she underwent 9 miscarriages, an extremely painful process as she longs for a biological child. However, her health did not allow her to carry a pregnancy past the first stages due to an autoimmune disease and endometriosis. Finally, she and Phil adopted their first son, Rowan Joseph Bronstein, in 2000. Unfortunately, in 2004, his marriage ended after Phil filed for divorce. In a wild twist of fate, unfortunate enough, Sharon was now deprived of Rowan's custody as the court ruled that the young boy was going to spend most of his time with Phil, thus blocking Sharon, leading to further isolation from her son. The emotional weight says nothing of personal struggles like divorce, miscarriage, and loss of a child. An ugly chapter in Sharon's life, which the scars would carry long after those ties had severed. The fight for survival. In 2001, Sharon Stone's life took a terrifying turn when she suffered a brain hemorrhage that nearly took her life. The experience began on what seemed like an ordinary day while she was in Milan, Italy, attending a fashion show. Sharon was struck by a sudden, intense headache, which quickly escalated into a crushing pressure in her head. At first, she brushed it off as the result of exhaustion or stress. But as the pain intensified, she collapsed on the runway. What followed was a blur of medical chaos, with Sharon losing the ability to respond or move. When she regained some awareness, she found herself being rushed to the hospital, unable to remember anything, and feeling her body betray her in the most terrifying way. For the next 9 days, Sharon's condition worsened as her brain hemorrhage continued to ravage her body. The pain was described as indescribable, a constant torment that consumed her as blood flooded her head, neck, and spine. The medical team debated whether she would survive the surgery that might be necessary to save her life, with the situation looking dire. Doctors spoke in hushed tones, outlining the risks of brain surgery, yet no one could tell her if she would make it through the operation. At one point, Sharon witnessed another patient beside her take their last breath, a harrowing experience that brought her face to face with the reality of death. At that moment, she felt the overwhelming presence of death looming over her, knowing that she might not leave the hospital alive. The odds, however, seemed stacked against her, and Sharon Stone did prove them all wrong and survived, but the price was agonizingly steep. The result was that the star was discharged from the hospital looking thin, weak, and frail in body and spirit, an astounding 18% of her body weight gone. The physical impairments were devastating. She could barely walk because her right leg was weak and trembling. Her hands trembled, and her memory was almost erased. Talking and reading were things she now found herself unable to do. The toll of relearning all over again, speaking to writing her name, was devastating. Fighting through an excruciating recovery process, Sharon battled hard to gain the strength to survive, let alone thrive. The battle might as well have commenced on physical recovery. The emotional and psychological aftermath of the hemorrhage has ravaged Sharon. She now had not only to cope with the shock of her near brush with death, but an empty feeling of loss. The once bright Hollywood star now found herself trying to rebuild her life from scratch. There was no manual for recovery, let alone avenues programs or therapies that would have aided her regain the lost skills. Desperate to stimulate her brain and help re-establish the lost connections, she turned to neurologists and therapists. This was a clearly traumatic experience, but Sharon fought like a warrior and would not let it dictate her life. Little by little, she began to take control of her life, finding the strength to emerge from the physical and emotional wreckage and reclaiming her purpose and resilience to serve her in the coming years. Sharon's journey of recovery was far from over, as she began to discover an unexpected path that would help her heal not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Reinventing herself, as Sharon Stone continued to recover from her brain hemorrhage, She began to reinvent herself in ways that transcended her previous life as a Hollywood actress. While the physical scars of her near-death experience remained, Sharon found solace in art, something she had never fully explored before. Over the years, she began dedicating herself to painting, a medium that allowed her to express herself in ways that were deeply personal and healing. Her artwork became a significant part of her life, and her paintings were showcased in galleries across San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Berlin. By 2025, she would even hold an exhibition at the prestigious ARA Passes Gallery in Rome, solidifying her place in the art world. Through painting, Sharon discovered a new voice, one that was free from Hollywood's constraints and that allowed her to tell her own stories on her own terms. Beyond her art, Sharon also redirected her energy into advocacy, becoming a prominent voice for causes close to her heart. One of her most important campaigns was her tireless work in the fight against HIV/AIDS. She raised over $34 million for medical research, showing her commitment to using her platform for something greater than herself. Sharon also worked on behalf of marginalized women and children, advocating for better resources for the homeless and standing up for the voiceless. She was no longer just an actress or a former sex symbol. She was now using her fame and resources to make a meaningful difference in the world. Her advocacy efforts, however, came with a cost, as Hollywood turned its back on her, labeling her as difficult and less marketable. Yet, Sharon didn't care. She had found a purpose beyond the glitz and glam of Tinseltown. Her people told Sharon Stone she was dead. However, against all odds, Sharon lived and survived, though at great cost. She emerged from the hospital emaciated, weak, and unrecognizable after losing 18% of her body weight. The physical trauma was beyond extreme. Her right leg was so weak she could barely walk. Her hands would tremble uncontrollably, and her memory was almost completely wiped off. Simple acts, such as speaking and reading, were impossible. She had to relearn everything from speaking to writing her name. No wonder the process was grueling and unyielding, for Sharon fought tooth and nail for every inch on her road to recovery to regain control over her own body. But her battle for survival did not stop there. Her trauma also had great emotional and mental repercussions. Apart from confronting the shock of the near-death incident, Sharon was beset by feelings of serious loss. The once beautiful Hollywood star was now a woman struggling to reconstruct her life from ground zero. She had no help with the programming and therapies that might bring her back. She practically begged neurologists and therapists to help her find ways to excite her brain and reconnect its lost pathways. But Sharon, through her willpower, proclaimed that this trauma would not have her name attached to it. She gradually took back her life, being born from the physical and emotional wreckage, and its new meaning and resilience that would carry her soul forward in the days to come. Sharon Stone's journey is nothing short of legendary, proving that resilience and reinvention know no age. But what do you think about her transformation? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more incredible Hollywood stories, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. And before you go, check out the next video on your screen. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.